Good afternoon. Welcome to Freedom Friday. It is Cherie of SimpliFunded, and I came across this article. Most of the time, people don't like to talk about how you could lose money in real estate, especially someone like me who offers real estate funding for people who are investors. However, I think that this is a cautionary tale, and I've actually helped people get out of problems like this on the front end before you actually close the deal. So let's take a look at this article really quickly and read how this real estate investor says a quote unquote perfect storm of problems put him $27,000 in the hole on a BRRRR project. BRRRR stands for renovate, buy, renovate, um, rent, refinance, and repeat, BRRR. It is a way for you to buy an infinite number of properties for your real estate investing portfolio. So apparently, this real estate investor is saying here, he shares what spoiled his strategy and how he's going to adjust when looking for future deals. So, this guy named William Edwards that wrote this. Okay, so when Marky Swazo invested in his first property in Memphis, Tennessee in 2019, things went swimmingly. Swazo says he bought it for $52,000 using savings and investing profits and was able to double its value in just a couple of years after rehabbing the property for around $10,000. So that is definitely a win. When he used the proceeds from selling the house to buy another property in Pittsburgh in the fall of 2021, things were more difficult and the roadblocks piled up for Suezo. The first problem he ran into was zoning issues. The house had been listed as a single family home despite being a duplex, he told the Rental Income Podcast. So I wanted to point this out to you because recently we had a situation where the appraiser found out, like when we were trying to appraise a property for one of our clients, the appraiser found out that a property that was a duplex had never been permitted to be constructed as a duplex. It was permitted as a single family home. So, because of that, during the underwriting process and the appraisal process in particular, we were able to save this specific real estate investor a lot of heartache and a lot of future problems because the appraiser found that issue. Zoning issues, lack of permitting issues with regards to major repairs that the previous owner did, et cetera, et cetera. They should either be caught by the realtor that you're working with, or the appraiser, or a home inspector. You don't want to skimp on working with the right professionals to ensure that you don't have any zoning issues, you don't have any issues with regards to individuals not pulling permits, et cetera, et cetera. However, you as the real estate investor, you need to ask all of the right questions. So I'm sure that, potentially sure that this gentleman who bought this house and ended up losing $27,000 on the BRRRR strategy, I'm sure that he didn't know to ask these types of questions. So that's the reason why we're having this discussion today, so that you know to ask these types of questions. So it says here, this meant if he planned to rent the property out as a duplex, he had to get the property rezoned as such. To do so, he had to hire an architect to create drawings of the property's layout and give recommendations to update the property so that it would be in compliance and the certificate of occupancy could be adjusted. Doing so cost him around $4,000 to $5,000. So this was probably not in his rehab budget. You always want to have some miscellaneous money in your rehab budget, but these are the types of questions, again, you want to ask yourself very early on. After getting the certificate of occupancy up to date, Suezo had to find a contractor to complete the rehab, of the property, but there appeared to be a shortage of contractors in the area, he said, and the cost for them had increased beyond what he had budgeted for. How many of us have this issue as well, especially if you are buying properties in a location where you don't have a network of people, especially a network of contractors? It can get pretty pricey and you could end up out of budget. He's also saying here at the same time, the cost of goods, meaning the materials used to rehab the property, was also spiking. Many of us remember that time in 2021, driving his overall cost up even more. When all was said and done, Suezo said he ended up spending $43,000 on the contractor. He says it was like the perfect storm of everything just getting much more expensive in a few short months. Contractors were getting super busy and essentially everything almost doubled in price. So that initial $20,000 I thought it was going to be ended up being closer to $40,000 to $50,000. Including the cost of the architect, Suezo's total cost for the project was about $47,000, which was around $27,000 over budget. So he basically really cut into his profit margins there. Suezo plans to continue renting out the property and then eventually use a cash out refinance on it to purchase another home. And yes, we at Simply Funded do cash out refis for real estate investment properties. So you can definitely contact us if you want. Contact at simplyfunded.com is our email, or you can come to our website and hit the application button and just come fill out a brief questionnaire. Let us know what property you have that you need a cash out refi for, and we will make sure to contact you and handle that for you. Sorry. So it's saying here that he did a cash out refi on it to purchase another home with renters paying back the cash out loan. This strategy is called the BRRRR method, short for buy, rehab, rent, finance, and repeat. It can be used to build real estate portfolios without using much of anyone's own money. But if a rehab process gets drawn out longer than expected, the investor is then left to cover the mortgage costs instead of a renter. Higher than expected rehab costs can also put the investor at risk of financial loss. Suezo said one side of the duplex is currently being rented out and that the rent from that unit has covered most of the monthly mortgage costs, save 50 to 100 save for $50 to $100 per month that comes out of his own pocket. For the other unforeseen expenses, he said he's using a loan for the money he hadn't budgeted for, and that he plans to hold the property for the long term, meaning it's likely he'll recover his losses over time through cash flow and appreciation. So, what is he going to do going forward? Suezo, who is a lawyer in New York City, said he first plans to invest in areas closer to home. So we talked about that. Pittsburgh is about a 7-hour drive from New York. There's a lot of delay in communication when I have to send an email or when I have to follow up with a phone call. The contractors, sometimes they might describe a problem to me over the phone or by email, but if I could just see the problem, it'd be much easier to understand what's going on. So I'll give you a couple of other options with regards to this. Number one is we definitely suggest that people purchase like within a 50-mile radius of their home. We definitely suggest that you go and like do spot checks on your construction team. You are able to either FaceTime your team or have them show videos of of what they're asking for. You don't have to just do things by phone call and email. You can use video as well in order to talk with your construction company, with your contractors. Moving on with the article, it says here, he said going forward, he's going to invest in properties that will only require light rehab in order to minimize the risk of the project getting strung out longer than expected. So when people are getting started with the BRRRR strategy, especially with the rehab part, starting with light rehabs is the best way to go. Does the property just need to be cleaned out and some paint and maybe a little bit of flooring and some new, handles on the doors and things like that? Anything that requires a lot more rehabbing outside of just, basic stuff, you kind of want to save that till you're a little bit more in the game and you've done uh, a lot more rehabs. You have a lot more experience. It's also saying here, he also recommended that investors take into account how much of a financial cushion they're working with before buying a property. He says, always factor in a safety net. If the contractor tells you it's going to take 3 months, you should prepare for 4 to 6 months. Not that you should just accept whatever they tell you, but just be prepared because um, things happen. And I think contractors are notorious for taking longer than what they tell you. He also added, if you only have 2 months worth of reserves, I wouldn't recommend going out and doing a full gut rehab. It might take 6 months to a year. So you definitely want to have more than enough in cash reserves in order to do your BRRRR successfully. So again, I saw this and I wanted to share this with you. Thought this was a great article, just some things to watch out for. If you are looking to become a real estate investor, you're wanting to um, purchase real estate investment properties, you need funding for them, definitely reach out to us at simplifunded.com. Thanks so much and have a blessed Friday. See you Monday. Take care. Bye bye.